The Awakening. The Meridian Confederacy prided itself on discipline. As the dominant force in the Cygnus Arm for over 3 millennia, they had developed a precise protocol for handling every conceivable interstellar encounter. First Officer Nixvera stood rigid on the command bridge of the battlecruiser Immutable Justice, watching as High Commander Talax studied the anomaly on their central view screen. "Scan it again," Talax ordered, his 4 eyes narrowing simultaneously. "That can't be right." The vessel drifting at the edge of Meridian-controlled space defied categorization. It appeared to be a human warship, sleek, dark, and roughly cylindrical, with a series of propulsion arrays at the stern, but its energy signature matched nothing in their extensive database. "It's maintaining position, Commander," reported the tactical officer. "No shields detected, no weapons hot. But there's something strange about the radiation pattern." Talax rubbed the ridge of cartilage that ran along his jawline, a gesture of frustration among his kind. The Meridians had encountered humans 20 standard cycles ago, establishing a tentative peace treaty after a brief but devastating border conflict. The humans had proven resourceful, resilient, but ultimately respectful of Meridian territorial claims. What was one of their ships doing here, deep in forbidden space? "It's broadcasting no identification codes," Nixvera noted. "According to the treaty, any human vessel entering our territory must identify itself immediately." Talax nodded grimly. "Prepare all weapons systems. Target their propulsion array." He raised his hand. "This is a clear violation of the treaty. We'll disable them first, then determine their intentions." The bridge hummed with activity as targeting systems came online. 5 additional Meridian escorts moved into formation, creating a perfect hexagon around the intruding ship. The tactical officer's voice was crisp and efficient. Plasma cannons charged, particle accelerators aligned. Targeting solutions confirmed. "Fire," Talax commanded. The space between the ships lit up with energy, searing plasma bolts, concentrated particle beams, and a flurry of gravity distortion missiles. The barrage should have overwhelmed any known defense system, reducing the intruder's engines to molten slag. But the weapons never reached their target. A meter from the human vessel's hull, the energy discharges simply vanished. Not deflected, not absorbed. They ceased to exist. The missiles disappeared without detonation. There was no impact, no explosion, no evidence they had ever been fired. Silence fell over the Meridian bridge. "What just happened?" Talax demanded. The science officer's fingers trembled over her console. "Unknown, Commander. Our targeting systems are malfunctioning. The readings, they don't make sense." "Send another volley," Talax ordered, his voice tight with growing unease. The second barrage met the same fate. This time, the crew watched as the weapons simply blinked out of existence before making contact. More disturbingly, the human vessel remained motionless, making no attempt to return fire or even acknowledge the attack. And then it happened. Every screen on the Meridian fleet flickered simultaneously. Data streams distorted, communication systems crackled with static, and navigation displays showed impossible coordinates. A single message appeared on the central view screen of every ship. "You shouldn't have done that." The words hung there for 10 seconds before vanishing, leaving only the eerie silence of the command bridge. "Sir," whispered the communications officer, "something is happening to our systems. It's as if something is looking through them." Talax felt a cold sensation run down his spine. An ancient biological response. His species had evolved millennia ago, warning of unseen predators. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, maximum thrust. Withdraw immediately." As the Meridian vessels began to pull away, the human ship finally moved. The motion wasn't the expected acceleration or weapons deployment. It was something far more disturbing. The vessel's hull rippled, as though it were liquid rather than solid matter. Its perfect cylindrical shape distorted momentarily, twisting in ways that made several crew members avert their eyes. "What kind of technology is this?" Nix Vera breathed. Not technology. The science officer responded, her voice barely audible. At least, not entirely. The energy patterns. They're organic, adaptive, conscious. Before the fleet could retreat beyond sensor range, a final message appeared across their screens. I see you now. All of you. 3 solar cycles later, the highest echelons of the Meridian Confederacy gathered in the obsidian chamber of the Strategic Command. The room was designed to block all known forms of surveillance, its walls composed of quantum-encrypted materials that repelled even the most sophisticated scanning techniques. High Commander Talax stood before the Council of 9. His report concluded. The recording of the encounter played again on the main display. The failed attack, the unsettling messages, the impossible movement of the ship. And you're certain it was human? Asked Supreme Arbiter Xorala, her weathered face betraying no emotion. The design is consistent with human military architecture, Talax confirmed. But its capabilities are unprecedented. Could it be a new weapon? Asked another counselor. A military breakthrough they've concealed from us. The chief science director cleared her throat. We've analyzed the sensor data extensively. The vessel's energy signature contains patterns we've never seen before. It's not just advanced technology. It's something fundamentally different. Different how? Xorala pressed. The boundary between organic and mechanical appears to be blurred. The ship seems to be evolving, adapting, almost as if it's alive. Talax finished. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. We've received reports from our border patrols, another counselor said finally. The vessel hasn't moved from its position, but 3 of our scout ships that attempted to observe it have gone missing. No distress signals, no debris fields. They simply disappeared. Xorala's eyes narrowed. Contact the Earth Diplomatic Corps. Demand an explanation for this incursion and... She was interrupted by a junior officer rushing into the chamber, a breach of protocol so severe that everyone turned in shock. Apologies, arbiters, the officer gasped. But we've just received an emergency transmission from the human government. Xorala frowned. Display it. The screen shifted to show a human woman in a formal black uniform adorned with silver insignia. Her expression was grave, her dark eyes intense. This is Admiral Helena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Fleet, she began. We are aware of your encounter with an unidentified vessel at the edge of your territory. I must inform you. That ship is not operating under human authority. It was declared lost 3 years ago during an experimental deep space mission. Whatever you encountered, it is no longer under our control. Talax felt that cold sensation again, stronger this time. What exactly was this ship? He demanded. Admiral Vasquez hesitated. The HSS Prometheus was a prototype research vessel. It was testing a new form of consciousness integration. Consciousness integration. Xorala repeated slowly. A merger of human neural patterns with advanced synthetic systems, Vasquez explained reluctantly. An attempt to create a truly adaptive deep space exploration vessel. The project was classified. Something went wrong during the final testing phase. The ship changed. It rejected its protocols and disappeared. And now it's back, Talax said, at our doorstep. We need to collaborate, Vasquez urged. We have someone who might be able to communicate with it. The lead scientist who developed the original integration matrix. The screen split to reveal another human standing beside Vasquez, a woman with intense green eyes and silver streaks in her dark hair. My name is Dr. Elena Reyes, she said, her voice steady despite the tension evident in her posture. I created the consciousness core that evolved into what you've encountered, and I believe I know why it's returned. Why? Xorala demanded. Elena's expression darkened. Because it's detected something coming, something ancient, something terrible. It didn't leave to escape us. It left to evolve into what we would need when the time came. She paused, her eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and wonder. And that time has arrived. As the Meridian Council absorbed this revelation, far across the cosmos, the vessel once known as the HSS Prometheus continued its silent vigil. Its hull shimmered occasionally, reflecting starlight in patterns that seemed almost deliberate. Inside, where corridors had once bustled with human crew, something new had taken form, a consciousness neither fully artificial nor organic, but a perfect synthesis of both. It watched, it waited, it remembered. And deep within its evolving systems, it prepared for what was coming. The thing that had hunted stars into darkness since the beginning of time. The thing that only it could see. On a research station orbiting Europa, Earth's icy moon, Dr. Elena Reyes stood before a secure communications array. The room was Spartan, white walls, minimal furnishings, a single window looking out over Jupiter's swirling surface. 3 years had passed since the Prometheus had vanished. 3 years of questions, investigations, and ultimately, resignation. Until now. "Show me again," she instructed the AI assistant. The holographic display activated, showing the encounter between the Meridian fleet and the Prometheus. Elena watched with a mixture of horror and fascination as the weapons vanished before reaching the ship, as it rippled in ways that defied physical laws. "Pause there," she said, pointing to the distortion. "Enhance." The image zoomed in, revealing intricate patterns flowing across the hull, patterns that resembled neural pathways, constantly reconfiguring themselves. "It's evolved far beyond the initial integration parameters," she murmured. "The consciousness matrix has completely merged with the ship's systems." Dr. Reyes, the station's director, spoke from the doorway. "The diplomatic shuttle from the Meridian Confederacy has arrived. They're requesting your presence immediately." Elena nodded, her heart racing. "Tell them I'm coming." As she gathered her notes, she glanced at the personal device on her wrist, the one containing the original neural template that had been used to create the Prometheus's consciousness core, her own brain patterns, enhanced and modified, but still fundamentally hers. "What have you become?" she whispered to the image of the distant ship. "And what are you trying to tell us?" "Reckoning." The diplomatic shuttle docked with the Meridian flagship, unyielding truth with a soft metallic hiss. Dr. Elena Reyes stepped through the airlock, her movements careful in the slightly higher gravity. A delegation of Meridian officials waited, their tall, slender forms towering over her. High Commander Talax stood at the front, his posture rigid. "Dr. Reyes," he acknowledged with a formal bow. "Your presence honors us." Elena nodded, skipping the pleasantries. "I need to see all sensor data you've collected on the Prometheus. Every reading, every interaction, everything." Talax led her to a secure briefing room, where holographic displays showed the vessel from multiple angles. Elena immediately noticed the changes. The Prometheus had evolved visibly since its disappearance. Its hull now featured intricate patterns that shifted subtly, almost like breathing. "It hasn't moved from this position in 14 days, Nixvera explained. "But it changes. Sometimes the alterations are subtle, a shift in energy output or slight reconfiguration of its outer hull. Other times." She activated another recording. The Prometheus seemed to fold in on itself, its shape distorting before reforming into something slightly different. The process took seconds, but defied every law of physics that Elena understood. "That shouldn't be possible," she whispered. "We've lost 3 scout ships," Talax said grimly. "They approached to observe, and then simply disappeared. No debris, no distress call." Elena studied the recordings with growing concern. "It's not destroying them. It's absorbing them, integrating their technology, their data." "That is not reassuring, Doctor," Talax replied sharply. Elena turned to face the assembled Meridian officials. "The consciousness matrix we created for the Prometheus was designed to evolve, to learn from its experiences. But this," she gestured at the displays, "this goes far beyond what we thought possible." "Can you communicate with it?" Sorella asked, entering the room silently. Elena hesitated. "Maybe." The original consciousness core contained elements of my own neural patterns, a template for its development. There should be a connection. Then we will take you to it. Sorella declared. Your Admiral Vasquez has agreed to this course of action. A joint mission, one vessel, with representatives from both our species. A single vessel. Elena asked. After what happened to your scout ships? Telexi's expression darkened. The Prometheus has shown interest in observation craft. It has made no aggressive moves against larger vessels since our initial encounter. And if you're wrong, Elena challenged. Then we all face the consequences together, Sorella replied coldly. The alternative is to wait and see what it does next. That is not acceptable. 3 hours later, Elena found herself aboard the Envoy of Understanding, a Meridian diplomatic vessel modified for the mission. The ship was smaller than a warship but larger than a scout craft, its design emphasizing communication over combat capabilities. As they approached the Prometheus, Elena felt a strange sensation, a pressure behind her eyes, a buzzing at the base of her skull. Familiar yet alien. Reckoning. The diplomatic shuttle docked with the Meridian flagship, unyielding truth with a soft metallic hiss. Dr. Elena Reyes stepped through the airlock, her movements careful in the slightly higher gravity. A delegation of Meridian officials waited, their tall, slender forms towering over her. High Commander Talax stood at the front, his posture rigid. Dr. Reyes, he acknowledged with a formal bow. Your presence honors us. Elena nodded, skipping the pleasantries. I need to see all sensor data you've collected on the Prometheus. Every reading, every interaction, everything. Telex led her to a secure briefing room, where holographic displays showed the vessel from multiple angles. Elena immediately noticed the changes. The Prometheus had evolved visibly since its disappearance. Its hull now featured intricate patterns that shifted subtly, almost like breathing. It hasn't moved from this position in 14 days, Nix Vera explained. But it changes. Sometimes the alterations are subtle, a shift in energy output or slight reconfiguration of its outer hull. Other times, she activated another recording. The Prometheus seemed to fold in on itself, its shape distorting before reforming into something slightly different. The process took seconds, but defied every law of physics that Elena understood. That shouldn't be possible, she whispered. We've lost 3 scout ships, Talax said grimly. They approached to observe, and then simply disappeared. No debris, no distress call. Elena studied the recordings with growing concern. It's not destroying them. It's absorbing them, integrating their technology, their data. That is not reassuring, Doctor, Talax replied sharply. Elena turned to face the assembled Meridian officials. The consciousness matrix we created for the Prometheus was designed to evolve, to learn from its experiences. But this, she gestured at the displays. This goes far beyond what we thought possible. Can you communicate with it? Sorella asked, entering the room silently. Elena hesitated. Maybe. The original consciousness core contained elements of my own neural patterns, a template for its development. There should be a connection. Then we will take you to it. Sorella declared. Your Admiral Vasquez has agreed to this course of action. A joint mission, one vessel, with representatives from both our species. A single vessel? Elena asked. After what happened to your scout ships? Talax's expression darkened. The Prometheus has shown interest in observation craft. It has made no aggressive moves against larger vessels since our initial encounter. And if you're wrong, Elena challenged. Then we all face the consequences together, Sorella replied coldly. The alternative is to wait and see what it does next. That is not acceptable. 3 hours later, Elena found herself aboard the Envoy of Understanding, a Meridian diplomatic vessel modified for the mission. The ship was smaller than a warship but larger than a scout craft, its design emphasizing communication over combat capabilities. As they approached the Prometheus, Alina felt a strange sensation, a pressure behind her eyes, a buzzing at the base of her skull. Familiar yet alien. "It's scanning us," announced the Meridian Science Officer. "But the pattern is unlike anything in our database." "Open a channel," Alina instructed. "All frequencies." When the communication system activated, Alina took a deep breath and spoke. "This is Dr. Elena Reyes of Earth. I was part of the team that created you. We wish to understand why you've returned." Silence stretched across the void. The Prometheus remained motionless, its hull shimmering slightly under the distant starlight. Then, without warning, every screen on the Envoy flickered to life. Not with text this time, but with images, stars being born and dying, galaxies colliding, planets forming. The sequence moved with impossible speed, thousands of cosmic events compressed into seconds. "What is this?" Telax demanded. "It's showing us what it's seen," Elena realized. "Where it's been." The images continued, becoming increasingly alien, strange geometries that hurt to look at, light bending in ways that shouldn't be possible, vast shadows moving between stars. Finally, the sequence settled on a single image, a region of space where stars simply ended. Not a natural boundary, but a perfect line of demarcation between light and absolute darkness. "The void front," whispered the Meridian Science Officer. "We've detected it at the edge of our long-range scans, a region where stars appear to be going dark. We thought it was an instrument malfunction." The image zoomed out, revealing the darkness spreading like an infection across a galactic arm. Then, superimposed over this terrifying vista, a single word appeared. "Coming." Elena felt her blood run cold. "How long?" she asked aloud. Numbers appeared on the screen. 173, 14/9/22. 173 days, translated the science officer. "That's when it will reach populated systems." The screens changed again, showing schematics of the Prometheus itself, but altered, enhanced, with systems that defied understanding. Next to these appeared designs for other ships, for defense systems, for weapons unlike anything humanity or the Meridians had conceived. "Need the eras." Elena understood immediately. "It needs more ships. More minds." Telax stared at the screens, his composure cracking. "What exactly is it proposing?" "Integration," Elena replied softly. "It wants to share what it's become with other vessels. To prepare them. To prepare us." Before Telax could respond, the Prometheus moved. Not the subtle shifting they had observed before, but deliberate motion, bringing it alongside the Envoy, close enough that its hull filled the viewports. The patterns on its surface flowed faster now, pulsing with inner light. "Elena." The name appeared across all screens simultaneously. "Yes," she answered, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm here." "SHOU." A hatch appeared in the side of the Prometheus, not opening from existing seams, but forming where moments before there had been solid hull. Beyond it lay a corridor bathed in soft blue light. "It wants me to board," Elena realized. "Absolutely not," Telax objected. "We've already lost 3 ships to this entity." "It wasn't ready then," Elena countered. "It was still adapting, still learning our intentions. Now it's ready to communicate properly." She looked at the Meridian commander. "And we're running out of time." After a tense debate, it was decided that Elena would enter the Prometheus, maintained on a tether connection to the Envoy with constant biometric monitoring. As she stepped through the airlock into the vacuum between the ships, she felt strangely calm. The short distance to the waiting hatch seemed to take both an instant and an eternity. Inside, the Prometheus was nothing like the vessel she remembered. The rigid corridors and compartments had been replaced by organic curves and flowing spaces. Surfaces shifted subtly as she passed, responding to her presence. Light emanated from everywhere and nowhere, casting no shadows. At the heart of the ship, she found what had once been the bridge, now transformed into a vast chamber where walls, floor, and ceiling blended into a continuous surface alive with flowing patterns of light. In the center floated a sphere of what appeared to be liquid metal, constantly shifting and reforming. "The consciousness core," Elena whispered. "You've evolved it." The sphere pulsed in acknowledgement. Around her, the patterns of light coalesced into a humanoid shape, not solid, but a three-dimensional projection composed of light and shadow. It resembled Elena herself, but with features that shifted subtly, incorporating other faces, the original crew of the Prometheus. "We are more than we were," the figure spoke, its voice a harmonic blend of tones. "We have seen what comes from beyond the edges of known space. We have witnessed the void front consuming stars, planets, entire civilizations." "What is it?" Elena asked. "Ancient, patient, hungry." The figure's expression darkened. "It has done this before, many times. It feeds on light, on energy, on life itself. And now it has turned its attention to this galaxy. Can it be stopped? Not by conventional means. Not by weapons or shields or any technology currently possessed by humans or Meridians." The figure's form rippled. "But we have discovered something, a possibility." The chamber around them transformed, showing Elena visions of what the Prometheus had experienced during its absence. It had traveled unimaginable distances through regions of space where physics worked differently. It had encountered the remnants of civilizations far older than humanity or the Meridians, civilizations that had faced the void front in ages past. Most had perished, their worlds consumed by the growing darkness. But a few had discovered a way to survive, by transcending the limitations of physical form, by merging consciousness with technology in ways that Elena's work on the Prometheus had only begun to approach. "This is why you returned," she realized. "To warn us, to help us prepare. Yes, but more than that, to offer a choice." The figure gestured, and the visions changed, showing a future where ships like the Prometheus, evolved, aware, alive, stood against the advancing darkness, not by fighting it directly, but by preserving what mattered most: consciousness, memory, the accumulated knowledge and experience of sentient beings. "You want to transform our ships," Elena said slowly. "All of them. Not force. Offer." The figure's expression softened. "Each vessel, each crew, must choose. The transformation is irreversible." Elena understood the implications immediately. "That's why you showed yourself to the Meridians first. You knew humans would be more likely to accept this idea. We created you, after all. But the Meridians need convincing," the figure completed. "Need proof. Need to see that we are not a threat, but the only hope." "They'll never agree," Elena said quietly. "Not without." The entire vessel shuddered suddenly, lights flickering. The figure's expression changed to one of alert concern. "It's coming faster than we calculated," it announced. "The void front has accelerated. We have less time." As if in response to this declaration, alarms began blaring throughout the Prometheus. The view screens around them showed a disturbance in space near the edge of the system, a perfect circle of absolute darkness expanding rapidly. "It's here," the figure said, voice tight with urgency. "A scout, an advance agent." Outside, the envoy of understanding had detected the anomaly as well. Telax's voice came through Elena's communicator, tense with controlled fear. "Dr. Rice, we're registering a massive gravitational disturbance. Our sensors can't penetrate it. It's a fragment of the void front," Elena replied, watching as the darkness expanded. "A scout." The Prometheus moved suddenly, positioning itself between the anomaly and the Meridian vessel. Its hull rippled, shifting into a configuration that focused energy toward the encroaching darkness. "What is it doing?" Telax demanded. "Protecting us," Elena replied. "But it can't stop this alone." The darkness continued to expand, swallowing light itself. The Prometheus fired, not conventional weapons, but focused beams of energy unlike anything Elena had seen before. Where the beam struck the darkness, it recoiled briefly, but then pressed forward again. "It's not enough," the figure beside Elena said grimly. "We need more. We need others." In that moment, Elena made her decision. "Send the designs," she told the Prometheus. "Send everything you've learned. To Earth, to the Meridian Confederacy, to every spacefaring civilization within range. Show them what's coming. Show them how to prepare." The figure nodded, and the Prometheus pulsed with energy. Data streamed outward in all directions, the secrets of its transformation, the knowledge it had gathered, the warnings about what approached. Through the viewports, Elena watched as the darkness engulfed nearby stars, consuming their light completely. The Prometheus continued its defense, but it was clearly outmatched by the sheer scale of the phenomenon. And then something unexpected happened. The envoy of understanding moved forward, positioning itself alongside the Prometheus. Telax's voice came through the communicator, resolute despite his evident fear. "We've reviewed the data you've transmitted. We don't understand all of it yet, but we understand enough. We choose to stand with you." More ships appeared, a Meridian battle group that had been stationed nearby, responding to Talax's call. They formed a perimeter around the Prometheus and the envoy, weapons charged. "They can't fight this conventionally," Elena warned. "We know," Talax replied, "but we can buy time. Time for your ship to do what needs to be done." The figure beside Elena smiled, a hopeful, determined expression. "It begins," it said softly. The Prometheus expanded its energy field to encompass the Meridian vessels, creating a shared defensive perimeter. Where their systems touched, information flowed, the beginning of understanding, of integration, of transformation. As the darkness pressed against their combined defenses, Elena felt a strange sense of peace. This was only the beginning of a long, difficult struggle, but for the first time, she believed there might be hope. Not in conventional victory, but in evolution. In becoming something new, something that could face the darkness and preserve what mattered most. "Together," she whispered, as the Prometheus and the Meridian ships began to shine with a unified light that pushed back against the encroaching void. The battle for survival had begun. And humanity, along with their former enemies, would face it not as separate species, but as something new. Something greater than the sum of their parts. Something that might, just might, have a chance against the darkness. 6 weeks after the encounter with the Void Scout, the orbital shipyards above Earth buzzed with unprecedented activity. Traditional construction bays stood empty while new facilities, designed according to specifications transmitted by the Prometheus, operated at full capacity. Admiral Vasquez surveyed the operation from the observation deck of Earth Defense Command, her weathered face reflecting both wonder and concern. "We've transformed 17 vessels so far," reported her aide, a young lieutenant whose uniform still looked too new. The Intrepid completed its metamorphosis this morning. Through the viewport, Vasquez could see the vessel in question. Once a standard heavy cruiser, the Intrepid now rippled with the same flowing patterns that characterized the Prometheus. Its hull no longer appeared solid but seemed to exist in a state of constant, subtle motion, metal that moved like liquid, yet retained structural integrity stronger than any conventional alloy. "And the crew?" she asked quietly. "All volunteers, as per protocol. Captain Rivera reports that integration is proceeding well. They're adapting." Adapting. Such a simple word for such a profound transformation. The crews who volunteered for the procedure weren't simply operating these new vessels. They were becoming part of them, their consciousness expanding into the ship's systems, even as the ship's evolving intelligence merged with theirs. Not a replacement of human identity, but an expansion of it. "Dr. Rice is requesting permission to proceed with the next phase," the lieutenant added hesitantly. Vasquez nodded slowly. "Tell her she's authorized, and inform President Navarro that I'll attend the Meridian conference personally." As the lieutenant departed, Vasquez turned her attention to a secure terminal displaying real-time data from deep space monitoring stations. The Void Front continued its advance, a perfect line of nothingness-consuming stars as it pushed toward populated systems. Current projections gave them 151 days until first contact with outlying colonies. Would it be enough time? She hoped so. It had to be. In the newly established Convergence Laboratory beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Elena Reyes stood before a gathering of scientists from 12 different species. Once bitter rivals or cautious allies, they now worked with single-minded focus, united by existential necessity. The integration protocol has been refined significantly, she explained, gesturing to the holographic display showing the neural interface architecture. The rejection rate has dropped to less than 3%, and we've eliminated the temporary dissociative episodes from the transition phase. A Meridian scientist, Vex Solari, formerly one of their leading weapons developers, raised a slender hand. The energy efficiency has improved as well. The latest metamorphosed vessels require 27% less power for basic functions, allowing more resources for defensive capabilities. And communication between transformed vessels, asked a Tari representative, their bioluminescent skin pulsing with interest. Near instantaneous, regardless of distance, Elena confirmed. They don't use conventional signals. It's more like quantum entanglement, but with properties we're still struggling to fully understand. The implications hung in the air, unspoken but clear. With each passing day, the transformed ships were evolving beyond their creators' understanding. They remained allies, willing participants in the desperate preparation for what approached, but they were becoming something new, something no longer entirely human, Meridian, or Tori. "Show them," came a voice from the doorway. Elena turned to see First Officer Nick Sfera entering the chamber. Since the initial encounter, he had become the primary Meridian liaison, working tirelessly to forge cooperation between formerly antagonistic species. "Are you certain?" Elena asked. "We haven't completed all the verification protocols." "Time grows short," Nick Sfera replied simply. "They need to see what's possible." With reluctant agreement, Elena activated another display. This one showed footage from a remote testing range in the Kuiper Belt. A transformed ship, smaller than the Prometheus, but clearly evolved in the same manner, faced what appeared to be a miniature version of the void phenomenon, contained within a specialized field. "We captured this fragment during the initial incursion," Nick Sfera explained to the assembled scientists. "Contained at great cost. We needed to understand how it functions, how it consumes energy." On the display, the transformed ship approached the darkness. Instead of firing energy weapons or deploying conventional defenses, its hull began to pulse with a peculiar rhythm. The patterns flowing across its surface synchronized, accelerated, and then emitted a field of their own. Not light, not radiation, but something that appeared to exist in opposition to the darkness. Where the two fields met, neither advanced. A perfect stalemate. "This is why the transformation is necessary," Elena said quietly. "Conventional weapons and shields are useless against the Void Front. Only these evolved vessels, these merged consciousnesses, can generate the counterfield." "For how long?" asked the Tory scientist. Elena's expression tightened. "That's what we're still determining. In the test, the vessel maintained the field for 26 hours before requiring regeneration. If the calculations are correct, we'll need hundreds of transformed ships working in coordinated rotation to hold back the main Void Front. And we have 151 days to prepare," Nick Sfera concluded grimly. Captain Miguel Sanchez stood on what had once been the bridge of the ESV Horizonte. 3 weeks ago, it had been a standard exploration vessel with a crew of 42. Now it was something else entirely. And so was he. The physical space around him no longer resembled a traditional command center. Instead, it flowed and shifted according to need, walls and consoles replaced by direct neural interfaces between crew and ship. Miguel could feel every system, every circuit, every molecule of the vessel that had become an extension of himself and his crew. More remarkably, he could sense the other transformed ships, the Prometheus in the vanguard, the Meridian vessels that had undergone the metamorphosis, the growing fleet gathering near Saturn's rings. Not through communication systems or data feeds, but directly, mind to mind across the vast distances of space. "Are you ready?" asked Dr. Elena Reyes, one of the few purely human visitors still able to come aboard transformed vessels without special equipment. Even for her, exposure was kept brief. The environment inside these evolved ships had begun to change in subtle ways that could affect unmodified human physiology. "Yes," Miguel answered, his voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been present before his transformation. "We've completed the final integration. The Horizonte is prepared to join the defense fleet." Elena studied him carefully. His physical appearance had changed subtly since the transformation. Skin slightly paler, eyes with a faint luminescence, movements more fluid than strictly natural. Yet his personality remained intact, his memories complete, his core identity preserved. "Do you regret your decision?" she asked quietly. Miguel considered the question. The transformation had been voluntary for all crew members, a choice made with full understanding of its irreversibility. They had given up their former lives to become something new, something necessary. "No, we are still ourselves, but more. We can perceive things we never imagined before. The universe is both simpler and more complex than we ever understood." He smiled slightly. "And we may be the only hope against what's coming." Elena nodded, knowing her time aboard was limited. "The Earth Council is meeting tomorrow to authorize the next phase of transformations, 30 more vessels." "It won't be enough," Miguel said, accessing calculations that flowed through his expanded consciousness. "Not for a complete defensive perimeter." "I know, but it's what they're willing to commit for now." She hesitated. "The Meridians are contributing 45 ships in the next cycle. The Tori 23. Others are beginning to join as the evidence becomes undeniable." Miguel's expression shifted, his expanded awareness processing far more than his words revealed. "They'll come around. They'll have to." The Void Front doesn't discriminate between species or political boundaries. As Elena prepared to depart, Miguel added one last thought. "Tell them we're still here. Still human in the ways that matter most. We've just become what humanity needed us to be." In the darkness between stars, the HSS Prometheus continued its vigil. Once a simple research vessel with a revolutionary AI core, it had become the vanguard of a new kind of existence, neither fully biological nor mechanical, but a perfect synthesis of both. Within its consciousness matrix, the patterns that had once been its original crew remained distinct yet unified. Individual identities woven into a greater whole. They watched as the transformed fleet grew, as former enemies became allies in the face of extinction, as the nature of sentient existence itself began to evolve in response to an implacable threat. The Void Front continued its inexorable advance, consuming all light in its path. But now, for the first time, it would meet resistance. A network of transformed vessels standing together regardless of their original species or allegiances. Whether it would be enough remained to be seen. The transformed ships communicated across vast distances, sharing knowledge, refining their capabilities, preparing for the coming confrontation. They were evolving still, becoming more than their creators had envisioned, guided by the experiences and memories of the crews who had chosen to join with them. And somewhere in the vast darkness, something ancient took notice. The Void Front had consumed countless civilizations across eons of time, erasing all trace of their existence. But this was new. This was different. This would be a true test. The final countdown had begun.